Hi, my name's Richard Osborne and this is UKBF Stories, where we're telling the story of small businesses across the UK and shining a spotlight on their journey. Today I'm talking to Jon Thorpe, founder and managing director of ACS, based in Northampton. Hello, Jon.
Hi, Richard.
Great to meet you, and thank you for agreeing to do this. I know that these sort of interviews are not something that you do, and I'd probably go so far as to say probably not something you're comfortable in sort of talking about yourself in that sense.
No, but learnt that you have to a little bit.
Yeah. No, well, thank you for agreeing for this one. So if we start sort of just before your sort of working life began, so you sort of come from Manchester, is that right?
I do. I come from Manchester, grew up in Manchester. My formative years were just, quite humble, simple upbringing. Sport was my life, so everything was sport. So football, cricket, tennis. And then I got injured playing football, and that meant that I couldn't play football or any sport really at a particularly high level. So my father got hold of me. My father had a really strong work ethic. We didn't see him Monday to Friday, but one of three boys, and work ethic he definitely gave us. So I had to get an education. The only place that would take me was Northampton College, now part of Northampton University. Only place that would take me. And that brought me to Northampton. Funnily enough, my dad dropped me at Sandbach Services, and I had to thumb a lift. In the days when you could thumb a lift safely, and I thumbed a lift, and the lorry driver, he says, "Where are you going?" I said, "Northampton." He says, "Great." So am I. I says, "Whereabouts?" "Northampton University." And I got dropped at the door, and I got the placement, and that's how I got to Northampton. And that's probably, I hate to think now, that's probably 32 years ago, without giving away my age.
That's amazing to think, literally, that is your journey into this county. It was thumbing a lift.
It's funny. It was, you couldn't write it. That's how I got to Northampton. Thumbed a lift.
But prior to that, you just mentioned that sport was a big part of what you was about. Yeah. Sort of a little known fact is you've been coached by somebody fairly well known in the sport you play. I've been fortunate enough over the years that in my formative years, probably the highlight was being coached at the Centres of Excellence by Gordon Banks. I was a goalkeeper, and to be coached by that man will never leave me. And I've been lucky to hit in tennis with other players, that have, Greg Rosetsky and people like that. But Gordon Banks was just pinnacle moment as a 14, 15-year-old playing against, some good sides. And don't want to dwell on the injury part that took you out of football, but you've played against a fairly well-known team as well.
I mean, as a kid growing up, you play against all the sides, and I played for Bury Boys, and the injury was against Liverpool at Penny Lane. It's a little bit of a story too, but as a teenage kid, you played against all the counties, all the regions, even down south to, well, I never came down south till I was 16, 17, but yeah, teams from down here would travel up to Manchester and we'd play them. So, yeah.
And then after thumbing the lift all the way to Northampton, yes. So what did you study?
Computing and business. Yeah. So, yes, graduated in that. That was a proud day for my parents and for me, I suppose, and it was a proud day. And then it was the recession. It was 91. And I was knocking doors, phoning, trying to get a job because I had the student debt.
In those days, doesn't sound a lot today, but it's £3,000 with NatWest, and they wanted their money back. And what happened? I get told no. And eventually, a company called Wildings, PLC company, 70 offices, offered me the opportunity to work for them. I was paid £7,000 a year, take home £414 a month. And within the same hour, I met my future business partner and my wife.
Like all the stars aligned.
And she started as my landlady. I moved in as a lodger. Again, that's, all these things happen.
And it's still stuck through it.
Still with, a long time later, 2 kids. The kids are growing up quick. Still with the wife, still good. You have challenges like you do in business, you do in relationships, but we're still good.
Fantastic. And you was at Wildings for 3 years.
Yes.
How did that come to an end?
So Wildings got into financial difficulty. I had a third deal with a PLC company. It's £1 million order, and they couldn't fulfil it. And I literally said to my colleague, John Harley, wouldn't it be lovely if we could do our own thing? And we jumped in John's car, and that was kind of the plan that rolled out. And we had a little bit of help from a guy called Mick Spittle as well in Northamptonshire. And that's how ACS was born. In our first year, Wildings then declined. And in the first year, we had revenues of about 400,000. Second year, just over 1 million. And then it just grew from there. And what I love, and I really love, is our first employee, Claire. She's still working here today. Gordon, our second employee, is still a consultant for us 27 years later. Ron, our third employee, he retired after 16 years. Call him Rocket Ron. He's just a legend. And so it goes on. And we just grew. And we just did some amazing stuff. I could bore you with the stories if you want me to.
Well, we'll work through that then, because I think, I'd like to think that people would want to know those, because in the reading up and research I've done for today, you've had one hell of a journey. But before sort of reaching to the end, what was the first sort of the working environment, the first office like? How was you've come from a big corporate PLC, 70 offices, to start your own business?
What a great question. So we started in a converted bathroom. That is the truth. In Birchfield Road East in Northampton. It was a converted bathroom. God, you have done your research. It was 1 desk, 2 phones, 2 chairs, and that's where John and I started. And it's next door to the tackle shop, if people know that, on Birchfield Road East. And that's where it started. And guys, you had to sell the products and services, you had to deliver them, install them, and collect the money. You had to do everything. But that's what you do as a small business. Yeah. And I still think of us as a small business. I still have that small business kind of, I don't know, you just over 90% of the country is small business, isn't it? So it's so important that we support local and support small business.
I did hear somewhere that because of being next door to the tackle shop, you sort of timed your open times, or...
Yeah, I mean, you spend the time on the phone, and when you're on the phone today, it's very different, with email and stuff. But back in the day, people would say, we'd love to come to your office and check you out to say you are what you... And you had to say, well, it's more important what we do in your office, so I'll come to you. And we got lucky, and I think in business you work hard, and yes, you get luckier because you work hard. But we had very briefly a story. We were asked to cable a building up in Edinburgh. We were about 3 years old, and Went to my colleague, says, can you do this job in Edinburgh? I said, can't do it. I said, you can't do it. I said, it's the first opportunity. Can't do it. So we borrowed Gordon Howe's car because he had an estate. We put the trunking in the car, and the cat, I forget what cable it was called back in those days, but BNC cabling, I think it was, Richard. And John and I just drove to Edinburgh. And we met the MD on the steps at 7 o'clock in Edinburgh. You looked outside, it was a 4-storey building, chandeliers in everywhere. You couldn't write it, it was a Del Boy Rodney kind of. It was Del Boy Rodney, it was, honestly. We looked at each other, we laughed out loud, and we spent 27 years, well, a lot of years laughing. And anyway, the MD gave us the keys. We worked all the way through the night, I kid you not, all the way through the night. At 7 a.m. the next morning, the MD came back into that building, and we literally gave him the keys back. That was it. We drove back to Birchfield Road East, and we looked at our colleague saying, yes, we can. Yeah? And I've lived with that Henry Ford quote, if you believe you can or you believe you can't, you're right. And honestly, so much can be done if you just set yourself to it.
Absolutely.
Anyway, I don't know, I've got onto that subject.
No, I've heard that story before, and I think it's fascinating, showing that really when you're in those early stages of business, more important than ever, you've got to find a solution.
Yeah, and as your business evolves and grows, you can be more selective, but the cabling, owning the workplace, which is what we did with IT and some of our other divisions, the workplace, the cabling, the infrastructure, it's all part of what we do.
Going forward a few years, one thing that I feel, looking in from the outside, says a lot about the business that you set up, what it stands for, and the shape of it going forward, was when the floods hit Northampton in January '98.
Yeah.
How did you approach that?
I had a major client, Airflow and Streamlines PLC. Far Cotton was under 3-4 feet of water. And they'd been brilliant to me when I was at Wildings, and they had faith in John and I when we started ACS. And I still know that family today who are on the board, their sons. And when it was a Sunday, I think, we went to their offices. They were underwater, but we could see in their distribution area, you're testing my memory here, in their distribution area, we could build an office for 70 people. And in 3 days, we built an office for 70 people. 70 desks, 70 chairs, 70 computers, all cabled, all working. And they became operational. Yeah. And that's another, just shows what can be done if you have the right mindset.
It's that made a huge difference to them. I remember the floods in Northampton because I had to come out and I was working in a different industry then, and looking at restaurants in the hospitality sector and all the underwater. It's trying to find people couldn't trade. Yeah. It's you could liken it to like the past few years of the pandemic. Yeah. A natural disaster just literally shutting people down, and being able to find a solution for them makes a huge difference for them. And as I say, says a lot about the business, your business itself.
Lots of examples of that there, honestly. But it's just that, it's just times you just got to, even now, today, you've just got to do it, and you do, you deal with the rejections at times and everything else. But that customer today, well, I know his son, the Wesley family, are good people. And you do it for good people. You do it for any customer, but if you have customers that are really loyal, that's when you give back, isn't it? It's when you've got to be there for them. You've got to be there.
What was the name of the company that's the very first company on your sales ledger?
So Reed and Bond were the first company. They opened an office on the Wellingborough Road for 4 desks, 4 computers, 4 860 X266s. How sad is that? They paid £11,099 per computer. God, I think what you get for that today in computing. And that was the first network we installed. First office we took ownership of, if you like, in its entirety, because it was print, technology, furniture, everything. They're still a customer today, 27 years. They scaled to 200 28 offices, and then through the recession of 2007, we helped them move back to consolidate slightly. But they're back growing again, and we'll get the benefit of that, I'm sure. But yeah. And the second customer, I've been on call with this morning, and it's Kettering General Hospital. And
you've just preempted my next question. Literally, because again, I found it fascinating that Orion Bond, your first invoice you raised, the first customer, and you're still working with them today. And I was aware Kettering Hospital as well, your second customer, and you're still working with them today.
Yeah, we don't do as much as we want to do with the NHS, but in the pandemic, because we went on government frameworks, we have started doing a lot of work with the NHS. So you've got to reach out. We're doing some business with Kettering 27 years later, but we feel now, because we're on these government frameworks, we can do a lot more. And that was this morning's call. So so that's exciting that we can do more with them.
No, and that's I remember seeing the sort of press release at that point when you got onto those frameworks, the sort of significant milestone as a business owner to reach and have that door open.
It's I can't put it into words how good an opportunity it is for our business to scale. We've just done our best ever trading year, and we're not even scratching the surface with that framework and that opportunity. So we'll see where that goes.
Jumping back, you moved into this office in February 2007.
Yes, indeed.
I remember hearing a statement that it was getting very close in the bathroom of the old office. So
you knew who and who wasn't wearing, deodorant, Richard. I mean, and there was, we moved out of Birchfield Road East into Burlington House. We then moved back into Birchfield Road East, and there's about 15 to 20 of us, and you knew seriously who was and who wasn't wearing deodorant. And when you're moving a lot of kit around offices that we'd sold, some days you put a sweat on, and but we always had Fish and Chip Friday. We always had fun. You got to have fun. When we worked at a corporate, when we started, have fun, kick ass, make money. We are not going to work with miserable people. Life is too short. Life is too short. And sometimes you find that, they creep into your organisation. I would say you've got to gild them in the nicest possible way, because they're not a good fit for your organisation, and they can do real damage to culture. So sounds a bit harsh the way I said it like that, but you've got to have fun. Work's hard. So you're going to work hard. You might as well have some fun with it. Yeah.
I've heard the statement, he said never work with miserable people.
Yes.
To be fair, I have the same attitude within my own organisation. The culture is so important. Skills can be trained. The culture is more important than anything.
And we all have dark days, let's be honest, me included, in the last couple of years, and I can talk about a few years back in 2007, some dark days, and we all have them, and we need to understand that and support those people at those times. So when we got into this building, though, that was off a good friend of mine. He referred this property, Paul Tudor, do you remember that name back in the day? He ran Underwood's Commercial. And I'd done 7 years at 6:30 in the morning for something called BNI. I did it for 7 years, and it gets knocked by a lot of people, don't get me wrong, but that gave us this head office. And that's where I met Paul Tudor, sadly not with us now, but he was a great man, and he did it, I did it, 7 years. We must have written over £1 million worth of business, and that was all about giving back. And that's, as your business grows, that's what you do. So anyway, we're here. We're just refurbishing it because workplace is what we do, technology. So yeah.
Coming from an environment you was and walking into your first big office, how did that feel? I mean, walking into an empty building at the first step through, but to walk in and think, this is where we're going to build further.
Yeah, so we were rattling around. I mean, there was 15, 20 of us in nearly 10,000 square foot. I mean, hello. It's like that. We had the pool table though. We had the bar. We've got the pool table back now. We're about to get the bar back now. But it gave us an opportunity to grow. But we were rattling around, and but very quickly, what went from 1 million in our second year was probably up to about 15 million by year 10, and we just started to organically just grow, and and that's what we continue to do. Just grown by 24%. March 31st, just closing. So really pleased about that. Coming out of a pandemic. Yeah. So yeah.
I heard, I don't know, I can't remember the exact dates, but not long after sort of moving into this building, you experienced being let down by a group of the team you've worked with.
Oh, lovely. God, you have done your homework, haven't you? So, one day, I still sit on the sales floor, and I sat on the sales floor back then. Probably you're talking about a 4-year period, which was probably a real tough 4 years. I will tell you why if you want me to. But we probably had 6 or 7 key top of their game salespeople, and over half of them walked out to set up in competition against us, and that hurt. If you speak to 2 of those 3 individuals, the 3 main guys, it didn't work out for them. It happens. I mean, the bumps in the road that you get growing a business are endless. You'll have people who sadly will steal from you. You'll have people who, nothing surprises you anymore. When you've been doing it 27 years, nothing surprises you anymore. But I believe in what I call a trust culture. And I trust, and it's done me no harm. There'll always be bumps in the road, but that's business.
Would you say it's important, because when you trust people, and you desire, if I use that word, a culture where it's almost like a family, or when you're a small business owner, it's hard not to get close to the people you work with, and when you are close to the people you're working with and they let you down, it's hard not to take that personally. So how do you keep that trust culture? How do you not let it change you, or to continue to build the business forward and maintain that ethos that you've had from the very beginning?
Do you know, Richard, I'm sure I'm not right when I say this stuff, but I think some of the best things we can do is forgive, and otherwise you carry all that hurt or that emotion with you. And if 2 of the 3 I can talk to now, and have a pint with. I mean, I'll forgive. I won't forget, but I'll forgive, and you move on. Otherwise, life's too short. And as you get older, stuff happens that really puts that in perspective. So and why ruin it for the you got 100 people. And you get 2% who, 3% who don't play with a straight bat, then I'm not going to compromise the other 97.
That's really important. Very good. You just mentioned, as I sort of led into that happened as part of a difficult time overall.
Yeah, it's you look back now, and so 2007, my mother moved on. She had a 7-year battle with cancer. She was 70, so that was difficult. Then we had a recession to deal with,
if you remember the recession. And Paul Tudor, I mentioned earlier, was sadly taken early as well. So I had a bit of stuff going on to deal with. You just got on and dealt with it as best you can. Did some stuff that was out of my comfort zone, a bit like doing an interview. But I hate running, always hated running. But I said to my mother in the hospice, and for Cynthia Hospice down here, I would run the London Marathon. I couldn't run 100 yards. I could, but running wasn't my thing. But did that. Said I'd climb a mountain, did Kilimanjaro, did that. So I had 3-4 years, but it was in a recession. And the height of that recession, I left the bank in Birmingham, and they said for ACS to stay, I had to put my house on the line. That was difficult for John and I. That was really difficult, and because we've worked so hard to remove personal guarantees from around your neck, as any start-up business will understand at times, you're quite often giving personal guarantees. So we'd worked really hard for 10 years, well, it's probably 14 years now, to remove all those personal guarantees. And had we not put our houses on the line, 80 plus people would have lost their jobs. So you did. Now, it was a no-brainer for me to do, but John was slightly older, so it was a bit more challenging in his decision-making, but we did. And then we subsequently had the best trading out of that recession. Yeah. But that was a real difficult kind of 4 years because everything was going on. Personal life, newborn, and then the business and the recession. So it was quite a bit to deal with. But you crack on, don't you?
And when you're dealing with those things, that the personal side of things, are perhaps maybe easier to keep away from your team and the colleagues you work with, perhaps. Yeah. Did the 80 plus people whose jobs you were trying to keep safe, were they aware at the time that you put your houses on the line to secure their jobs?
No, that's just John and I had and we still have a bond, but we were so close. You just had to do it. We were caught up in something that was out of our control. You can only control the controllables. Say it all my life. This was out of our control. What could we control? Well, we could do this and have the belief that we were just caught up in something that was to do with the IT industry and insurances. And there's 34,000 IT companies in the UK. We were in the top 80 out of 100 in the UK. And we were caught up in this, and we were like, where did this come from? And it was driven by the US. I don't remember back in those days, but anyway, long story short, we got on the phone to our major distributors, Tech Data, West Coast, Ingram Micro, and said, we don't understand it, but you need these reassurances. And that's how we gave them the reassurances. And off the back of there, we traded well. But it was a difficult time. You go like this in business, and then, I say bumps, that was more than a bump, that recession. But we came through it. And most of those people that went through that are still probably with us today.
But coming out of there, you did get two, what I see, quite significant accolades as a business. Fastest growing IT company in Europe.
True.
Well, actually, no, if I give it full title, fastest growing IT company in Europe, Middle East and Asia.
That's what they say, that's EMEA, that's what they say, yes. So I mean, these are, that's true. We've done well,
The one that I would, if I was in your shoes, feel most proud of.
Sunday Times?
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. That's just the culture piece, which is us. I've always said you've got to choose your attitude. Today we only have 3 values. We used to have about 10, but today it's just attitude, commitment and integrity. You live by those 3, you're not going far wrong. Teamwork's a kind of given, you know, it's part of the ACS way. But yeah, attitude's everything. You know, how you wake up in the morning, how you approach your day, how you set your stall out, your routine, how you show up. You have that choice every day. And some people think I'm mad when I say this stuff, but I passionately believe it. Passionately. It's, you have that choice. And you still have your dark days, and that's when it's more difficult. But the next day, you should be able to get back on track. Or a week later.
But you carried on expanding and moved into another arm of the business as well, and made a acquisition.
We've made a couple of 3 acquisitions now. So, I mean, the small acquisitions, a couple of 3 spring to mind that actually were probably mistakes we made, because there were small businesses where we were taking the owner into our ACS culture, and they weren't part of that culture. They weren't their DNA. They didn't have our values, and so it actually didn't work. The best one, arguably, was I'm a huge advocate of this man. He's called Gary Witz. He's in our cloud business, pure cloud business. This is called Data Store. He's an Oxford graduate, rocket scientist, amazing musician, wonderful company, and we took a 51% stake in that business some 10 years ago now, and that business is doing really, really well. They work within this building, and we have fun, as we do with everybody. But they're just great, a great technical team with great technical knowledge, which we have all across the ACS service desk as well. But they're great guys. That was one of the better acquisition stroke mergers that we did.
And you now offer recruitment.
No. So recruitment was, so I'll tell you about recruitment very briefly, because recruitment are really good friends of ours, yeah? They still trade as ACS Recruitment, so when we opened, I forget the company's name, this company in Milton Keynes, relocated from London. We'd redesigned their offices, we'd put in all the furniture, we'd put in all the IT, the cabling, the connectivity to the building. We'd done a turnkey solution, and they said, where do we get the people? And I said, good question. I referred this lady called Helly, and she worked for a company called Interaction at the time. I said, one day, Helly, we'll do this, and you'll do it under the ACS with us, under the ACS banner. Anyway, long story short, that's what happened. We backed that business. They were started here upstairs. And I exited that business probably about a month before the pandemic. That business is doing incredibly well. It's going to be hugely successful. It's already hugely successful, Richard. And that was the people piece that arguably we didn't have. Yeah, because but I've got enough on my plate with ACS, and we've got a wonderful opportunity to grow. So still good friends, but I'm out of the recruitment business.
Okay. You just mentioned the pandemic. So as we're carrying on the journey, the pandemic hit, and it hits everybody.
Yeah.
There's very few people that weren't negatively impacted by that.
Brutal, wasn't it? Yeah. Brutal. So, yeah, it was brutal. So, my wife's birthday, March the 23rd, I'll never forget it. Boris, stay at home. Stay at home. So, yeah, so May, lost my father to COVID. You know, the care home conversations that Boris was going on about. Yeah, so in May, lost father, and ACS went off a cliff. It's like the whole of the economy just stopped. And then, fortunately, somebody found the reset button, I would say, in June, July. And we ended up, thanks to the government with the furlough scheme equally, And thanks to the people in the business who just really rolled their sleeves up. We've got some people who did, I always say this is the work of two. I could name them, but I won't embarrass them because I'm not two. But yeah, so we really did finish that year okay to well. But it was so brutal. I mean, I can see myself now, you know, publishing every day on Teams, either videos or, you know, just conversations, just phoning. If I wasn't phoning every colleague that I could, I was reaching out to anywhere I thought there may be opportunities. I'd gone back to my, you know, survival. This was just about survival and trying to galvanise everybody to understand. Totally opposite to not telling them anything in 2007. This was a kind of, we've got to do this. And we finished well for that year. And then we have just had our best ever trading year. And we've won a number of very good managed service contracts. We've invested heavily, not heavily, but we've invested in cybersecurity training, been on these government frameworks, building out the Microsoft stack, and then there's lots of companies that want to attract people back into the workplace, and so they're changing their offices. So their offices have got to be more inspirational, got to be better at Teams and Zoom calls. They want Zoom rooms. They don't want receptions anymore. They want the cafes and, you know, more collaboration. So we were in a good place. We just had our best year, as I said. We had 25% growth. We've got a decent pipeline. Still will be bumps in the road. You know what's going on with inflation. You know what's going on with, you know, people, well-being. One of our passions is to support people, we care. But there's only so much help and support you can give at times as well. So it'll be interesting the next couple of 3 years, not just our business, but UK PLC, if you like. Well, you'll see that closer than me, probably.
Well, we're sat here in your design studio, part of your office.
Yes.
So behind you is all the colour picker charts and catalogue brochures about. And when we came in, I saw your folders about, you know, that talk about the design environment, you know, the service you provide. So drifting slightly, you know, moving on to a part of what you're doing as ACS. Mm-hmm. Can you expand more on the way you see the working environment, you know, the We Are workplace environment changing now? Because there was talk, you know, depending which news station you listen to, it's all about getting people back in the workplace or getting rid of offices and working from home, and hybrid is becoming a normal. We work a few days in the office, a few days at home as a company ourselves. What is the future looking like?
That's the $1 million question, Richard. You know, it depends what you talk to. Depends, where my bet's moving forward. So I've always said work's what I do, not where I go. And I said that before the pandemic, and I believe that. So you've got to have great cybersecurity, whether you're at the home office or the office. You've got to have great cyber. You've got to have great connectivity, haven't you, to the building or to your home because of Teams calls and everything else. Yeah, so we do that, obviously. But it will be what we call dynamic working, flexible working, hybrid working, call it what you may. I do believe that will be the norm moving forward. Give people that flexibility when they need it. They've got used to it. Do you know what? I think it's really healthy to be able to just do what you need to do at times for whatever it is, the kids or whatever it is you need to do. So I'm a big advocate of we call it dynamic working, flexible working. But I think the office has got to evolve and change. It's got to deliver. So you've got to create, a lot of people in the pandemic would argue they had a better place working from home than they did in the office. So the office has got to evolve. So the office has got to have, you know, pods that you can have private conversations, you know, proper Zoom rooms, you know, you've got to have the latest audio, visual, video conferencing facilities. you've got to have an environment that, I call it collision zone. Yeah, and it's just where colleagues, customers can come together. It might be the cafe, it might be the bar, it might be the pool table, it might wherever it is, but you've got to create those spaces people want to come to and have ideas. Because you have your best ideas when you're in the pub. Did it for too many years, you know, with John, it's some of our best ideas. And the workplace. And as much as I love digital, and I was on a course this morning around creating digital wards in the hospitals. Great, we need that. It improves things, yeah? After what we learned in the pandemic the last 2 years, the need of our NHS. The workplace has got to be inspirational. It's got to deliver. I'll make somebody laugh if I say it's got to deliver great coffee, but it's got to deliver great coffee. It's got to deliver collaboration. It's got to inspire, yeah? And I think those companies that will really do well and attract and retain the best talent, because that's what it's about, it's not the talent about, will be offering that inspirational workplace, will be offering the dynamic workplace, will be operating on what I call a trust culture. And if everybody bought into a trust culture, those that don't play with a straight bat, well, you can trust the people playing with the straight bats will deal with the ones as much as management and a board with those. And you just mentioned now about the environment. I know you've got a pool table here, for example, which is cool. I've heard you in a podcast talking about the importance of getting together as that team to get that energy together and that teamwork. How do people learn, develop and grow? Yeah. How do they learn, develop? They've got to be together. And they have to learn, and the stats show at the moment that it's the maturer crowd that don't want to come back to the office. Well, the oldies like me, you know, not me necessarily, but the other people, they've got that knowledge that they need to impart, yeah? We've got a guy here, he's Dennis. He stood up in a restaurant 15 years ago in Paris. In Paris, we went and built everything for a global organisation over 3 days. We took 3 trucks, 20 people on Eurostar, plus the guys going on the trucks. We built this office over 3 days. We're in this Parisian restaurant, and Dennis stands up, and it's the poshest restaurant I'd ever been at that stage. And Dennis stands up and he says, "I am Dennis from ACS." And I kid you not, Richard, everybody stood up and said, "No, I am Dennis from ACS." Yeah? And Dennis is still working with us. He works down at our warehouse. He's 65, 66 years of age. He doesn't want to retire. Yeah? I love that. Isn't that wonderful? That man, and you can put him in the pub and he'll tell you stories about ACS. It's so much more than, so, you know, I'm sat here, but I mean, it's as much about a Dennis Leach, a Claire Bowers, a Gordon Howe, so many people. I think that's a perfect segue into sort of where ACS is now, and I've overheard the term the Super Six. I don't know if it still is the Super Six still now. Still Six. Still Super Six. So how are you? So John Harley, he's now the chairman. Yeah. So John John arguably is the chairman. Yes. Yeah. And you're bringing up a team through into your Super Six. So what is the shape of that, and how is that shaping ACS going forward? So when I did the deal with John, the idea was, we had an opportunity to put in place a team and give them the autonomy to do. And I'm a great believer in, John and I were part of the problem before, because stuff would come to John and I, and we would arguably procrastinate at times, which I can't do. I struggle with that word. So the idea of the Super Six is just to do. So they're all leaders within their areas of the business, so in distribution, in sales, in service, in back office, and they come together and they're charged with making the boat go faster. Now, the board is solid, the board is good, we're all aligned, and we share that vision with that team. Operationally, then they will go and help that boat go faster. So that's the idea of the Super Six. They have coaching from a guy called Paul Beasley, who's based in Northamptonshire. I'm a big advocate of again. And I would say we're doing well. We're just over... Super Six has now been established a good probably 2 years. And they've been working with Mr. Beasley for over 12 months. So it's going well. But I think it's looking forward. How far can it go? The opportunity is massive if people just, we just do. I know I started at the beginning, it's about the doing for me.
Yeah. And is it a boat going faster or a bus going faster?
I always talk about, I read a lot of books. So I read a lot of books. And I always quoted Jim Collins, Good to Great. And the boat and the bus and being on the right seats on the bus. So I'm a great believer in that book. Great book. But yeah, it could be a bus, could be a boat. Doesn't matter really the mode of transport. It's all about just having that vision. What do we need to do? Let's get it down on paper and let's do it. Yeah, and have fun doing it. Yeah. And I do love my books, and I will say everybody needs to read Chimp Paradox, which I must have shared with you about Dr. Stephen Peters. Jim Collins' book is incredible, Good to Great. The Covey book's brilliant, as you know. But one I really resonates with me at the moment is the one by Carol Dweck. I think it's written by, it's called Mindset. And you read that, and I've got two wonderful girls, and sometimes I see their behaviours of this mindset thing. One's called a fixed mindset, one's called a growth mindset, and you see it in the workplace. And the skill is working with people, attracting people who share that kind of growth mindset. And if you can do that, dangerous.
One of the other things which I think is a massive part of the culture here. From the outside looking in, it feels like it is. And it's something which ACS doesn't shout about, and doesn't make a noise about. You just do it. But it is a lot of giving back. And I know that over the years, I've seen snippets that have not been through PR or anything like that, but from talking to people within ACS about decorating or building facilities, tech together.
God, that was only last year.
Yeah.
That was such a proud moment again. That was just last year. All our kids who haven't got devices to learn on. How do we allow that to happen?
Yeah.
And then, as you know, Bennett, All Things, the Trust, Nen Education Trust, and Matt Coleman there. And all of a sudden we've deployed hundreds of laptops, repurposed, engineers coming in at weekends, and these kids can learn. Anyway, I think we all understand the importance of them having the right toolkit now. So hopefully that's all the schools we're talking to at the moment, that's going to be behind us now moving forward. Yeah. But that was only last year, and that was a great thing to do. Giving back, I suppose.
But it's a regular thing that is part of the culture. So how is the choice made of what's what good causes or what volunteer projects or good cause done?
I think over the years we used to plan it, and then what used to happen is people used to just do stuff, and we'll encourage people just to go and do stuff, and we all have our own. We're all different, aren't we? And we all have different things that are important to us. So if somebody wants to go and climb Everest, for a loved one, or they want to do it for autism, or they want to do it for whatever it is, CF, whatever that is important to them, you're going to support it. Yeah. If you care, you'll support them and support what they want to do. Because no point Jon Thorpe saying we're going to do it for X. I have a personal love of Cynthia Hospice, as I do Bury Hospice. That's personal. So I will always do stuff out of the ordinary for them. But if somebody else, if you have a passion and understanding of something personal to you and you want to do it for you'd support that, wouldn't you?
Yeah. And I think the important bit there is your team, they get to do what they want.
What's important to them? What's important to them? And
I copied ACS in this, in the sense that...
We've had a few people copy us over the years. We could talk about that for hours, I tell you.
But I remember you, I can't remember how many years ago it was, but it was at the casino. You was with John Floyd...
Floyd Graham?
Floyd Graham, sorry, that's it, yeah. And you gave a talk, and ACS gives people time off to do that.
Yeah, to do that stuff. That we were doing that. They get the birthdays off. They, you just do. You know the proudest thing at this moment in time? Yeah. What's going on in the Ukraine? I've got a lady, I sit on the sales floor, and lady behind me, Sarah's been with us 17 years. She's a pre-sales consultant, top of her game, brilliant individual, great work ethic. And she came to me 3 weeks ago and said, I'm going to take two young girls from the Ukraine, refugees who need a home, somewhere to live, an opportunity to get a better life. Yeah. I said, where are they? She says, they're trying to get to Budapest. God, I was inside. It hit me so hard. And she said, I just wondered whether we'd consider being able to give one of them a job. I said, Sarah, that what you are doing is incredible. We have to give that girl. One was already, was going to have, she doesn't speak any English, so that'll be difficult. Yeah, maybe ACS recruitment can help her out in the logistics sector maybe or somewhere, but her other sister speaks very good English evidently. We have an opportunity. I'm pretty confident she will join us. You just got to do that stuff if you can do it. And you give. As you get older, you realise, it's, if you can give back any opportunity, and if you can make a difference any day to somebody, you should just do it. I'm a big fan of just doing stuff to make a difference. Whatever it is. Could be the door for the lady who's probably my age now, or it could be anything. But you just got to do it, yeah. So giving back's important.
What does the future hold for Jon Thorpe going forward and ACS?
Well, so we've got this, what I call this growth mindset at the moment, and got a talented Super Six that we've spoken about. We're recruiting at the moment, so we need more people in service. Some of the contracts we've won, we need, across the whole business, we need people. We need some talented consultants and salespeople. We're on this growth. We can grow. So, got to get the boat going faster. Need people on the bus in different seats maybe, and all that stuff, but I can get excited about that. We've got people with passion and energy upstairs, people who want to learn and develop. That's exciting. When you surround yourself with people who really want to take you back, Richard. I mean, I'm no spring chicken anymore, but I absolutely love working with people who've got that energy. It's wonderful. So yeah, we're growing, and we need more talented people to come and join us and help us grow. Our culture will never change. You've got to have fun. Life's too short. And we all have our dark days, as I say, but it's, yeah, the stories are endless. That's the problem. And I'm so conscious I can't, some stories I can't really share. So,
There's one at the tip of your tongue.
It's good fun. There's, in business, there's always bumps in the road, I tell everybody. Yeah, you can only control the controllables. But I love meeting people. That's one of the things I do enjoy, and listening to their stories. That's why doing this is totally out of my comfort zone, yeah? But I'm lucky to have had some amazing experiences, and those experiences are people who I hold at the highest esteem, And I could tell you about some of those people, Sir Alex, through a friend of mine. I've been lucky to do some pretty cool stuff, but it's just because I've worked hard, got my head down, and I put myself out for others. And, and you get lucky. Good things come back. What goes around comes around.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true. What you've just alluded to there, the sort of, putting yourself out, working hard, those sort of bits of advice, expanding on that. So one of the things, UK Business Forums exists to help people early on in their entrepreneurial career.
Yeah.
With the experiences you've had and fantastic business that you've grown, if you could narrow it down to just 3 bits of core advice for somebody to, to take on board, what would that be?
First words to the Super Six was just do it.
Yeah.
I could talk about the hardest thing is people just doing it. You can have all the vision, all the, written all down, the business plans, everything. But when you boil it down, somebody has to take action. And I think that's the JDI, you just do it. And I think you're not going to achieve unless you've got the work ethic. Got to have the work ethic. Get a bit of luck. I'd argue you make your own luck. And you've got to look after people. And I think if you look after people, first and foremost, it's surprising how lucky you can get. And we've got so many talented people here, honestly. It's untrue. So I'm the blessed one, as a good friend of mine, Paddy, would say. I'm blessed. Just because he'd say he's blessed, we're all blessed. Can't say I've saying that. Paddy.
We're all here just for a fleeting moment. What would you like to be remembered for? What would you, when in years gone, whether it's written on your tombstone, whatever it might be, in the autobiography about Jon Thorpe, what would you want it to say?
It's a decent bloke, I don't know. I've yet, in my world, I've yet to achieve. Now, everybody says that's not true, but that's the way I'm wired. I still think I've got a journey to go on. But yeah, if you're on my gravestone that day, then, just a decent bloke. Should have been I wish my life had been more in that sporting world, but we've all got regrets, haven't we? So I'm pleased I've got my health. I'm pleased as you get older, health is you realise how important that is. And I'm having fun. I love it. Want to grow it. And it's got to be fun. And I suppose when you talk about, the 3, you got to make it fun. Not just for yourself, more importantly for your colleagues as well. Yeah.
So if you're at that point in your mindset, I'd say, where there's still more to do. Then as opposed to a different question, then as opposed to what you want written about you if you're not there, why do you do it?
I think we all have a purpose, don't we? And it's very difficult at times. So that, you know, I could talk about the Super Six yesterday, and that was brought together with one primary purpose of teamwork to achieve more. Some of the parts, yeah. So that was its primary purpose. Mine is I believe we can scale this business, massively scale this business, and we have an opportunity. So I want to grasp that opportunity, and I want to do it with people like-minded who want to go and get it. If people say I've achieved, I still don't feel I've achieved. Well, what does achievement actually look like? And then you read the books and they say, you know, the fun part's the journey. Well, maybe they're right. Maybe the fun part is always the journey. Because maybe when you get to that dark day that you're speaking of there, you know, that's lights out, isn't it? So you might as well enjoy the journey. Never thought about it like that.
So, do you have I'm guessing you don't have a tangible measure, really, then, of each step?
No, no, not today. As you know, I'm not as young as I used to be. I've still got a lot to do. I'm enjoying it. I'm going to scale it, and you know, we'll see where it goes.
That's brilliant, and I wish you every success. Thank you for listening. Remember to like, share and subscribe to help spread the stories of small business across the UK. And have you got a story to share? Reach out to us on ukbf.co.uk and you could be the next UKBF story.